in the way that these projects were carried out. It's been funny to me. I've been revisiting these stories just in this past year, which coincides with the time that I'm managing my small team and developing things, and realizing how hard that is, and how hard it is to keep things moving. And then looking at someone like Groves in the movie and thinking, these people were just remarkable, just the force that they brought to these things and their organizational skills. In the movie, Isidore Rabi is Oppenheimer's friend who consults him, and he has an infamous quote about Leslie Groves, a general who was in charge of the project overall, played by Matt Damon in the movie. And Groves was quite a character. He had built the Pentagon and wanted to go serve actually in theater and combat, and was told, no, you have to work on this special secret project, which then he found out about. And Groves, one of his first jobs was deciding who should be the leader of the project, the scientific leader at Los Alamos. And Robbie had a quote that Groves wasn't largely considered to be a genius, but that his selection of Oppenheimer was a stroke of genius. And I always thought this quote was a little bit unfair, because I suspect Robbie was using as his model for genius one of these physicist, mathematician geniuses that he knew so well. He was one himself, and didn't think that applied to Groves. But Groves was an organizational genius. I can't imagine the mindset, the relentlessness that it would take to wrangle all those resources together to see that project through. So for me, it's a bit of just an inspiration, something to live up to every.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And I totally agree. I think when thinking about this story with a very minimal knowledge, right? You think about Einstein's theories, and you think about Oppenheimer and all the scientists kind of solving the hard technical problems. And that's, as an engineer, that's admirable. As an engineer, that's like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, inventing new physics on the fly, and, discovering how the world works and beating the Nazis to the bomb. Like it's all really cool stuff. But watching the movie and thinking about the story as a leader, as a mental model that's useful for me to think about how to conduct my life or conduct challenges, I love the pivots. I love the Groves wanted to go fight in the South Pacific, but they put him in charge of this ridiculous program with physics that may or may not have actually existed, with people that were all, some degree of savants and some degree of idiots,
These prima donnas, yeah.
Right, and he just jumped right into it, and and took hold of that. And Oppenheimer, who did the thing that he was probably felt like he was put on the earth for, the thing that he was the most uniquely suited in the world to do, is to create this bomb, and then, if not seamlessly, very intentionally, with a lot of willpower, pivoted to, my job is to now be a public figure and a voice of reason, and the one person who has the gravitas to try to get the public to think deeply about what it is we're doing here and how we should behave in the future. And that pivot both of those pivots are really inspirational. Like, even if you don't feel like it's your core skill set, even if it's not the thing that you thought you signed up for, sometimes the challenge presents itself that you are actually the only person that can solve. And running really hard at that, and taking it seriously, and putting out the energy into the world, like Drew was saying, about it's not about me, and I've got to get all these people around me to be able to do what's necessary. That's really cool. That's a Wonder Tour lesson that I'm going to hold on to for sure.
And because it's Wonder Tour, I've got to bring in the through line that Nolan lays out. For those of you who've been along for the ride, or are just Nolan buffs, you'll know that Christopher Nolan generally starts his movies by telling you just about everything you need to know about the film in that opening scene. And in Oppenheimer, we get this opening scene where we have Oppie putting a poisoned apple on his professor's desk, and then going back and trying to remove the poisoned apple before his professor eats it. And so we obviously have in our, in the world culture, this idea of the apple as the choice, back from the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, right? The choice that humans can make of, are you going to take wisdom on your own hand, like in your own eyes, basically? Are you going to make the decision for the world or for, the universe or whatever of what you think is right? Or are you going to do the right thing, the altruistic thing, whatever it is, and put it down and trust? And it's so brilliant because he sets it up with this where Oppenheimer has to choose, are you going to take wisdom in your own hands? Are you going to go build this thing and just let it loose on the world? And then at the end, he bookends it with what we had talked about with the mountaintop, with Einstein, with a reflection on that of what happens now. Did we let loose a evil into the world that will never be put back into a cage, basically? And doesn't that then tie back to the idea of just considering our decisions, considering, like you said with Groves, who is he going to put in charge? How is he going to design his organization? As we'll talk about in episode 108, our next episode on Oppenheimer. I mean, those are huge decisions that change the world. And to really, for each one of us, to recognize that we may not make decisions today or in our lives have the gravity of the decisions that some of these figures in this movie made, but we have our decisions have the gravity to change our local communities. Our decisions have the gravity to change our families, to change our workplaces, whatever it might be. And they can absolutely improve the lives of the people around us, bringing life, or, demean people, create inequality, whatever it might be. Just because we made decisions in our past that lead us one direction and that created a negative impact or negative feedback on us or on the world doesn't mean that we can't, as Brian said, like Oppie did, the next day decide to make a decision. You get to choose each day what your decision is. So you can pick, for us, just because we took the apple doesn't mean that we need to continue and continue and continue to take the apple every single day like it's Groundhog Day. One day you can decide not to. You just put the apple away.
Can't unpoison the apple, but you can spend the rest of your life trying to keep people from eating it.